It is good to see you. What's up? Clay sitting back there. What's up? Good morning. It's good to have you here today. My name is Dorsey Atkinson, and I'm the pastor here, and I'm excited that you're here. Give me that smiling face look back at me so I can see it. Now, don't look at your neighbor for that. You can. There you go. I got it. One out of you, Sandra. All right. What's you here? Great week in my life. How about you? Everybody had a great week? Well, I don't know if you had a great week or a terrible week, but you're here today, so it's about to get better. You understand? We're going to have a great time today. We've been in a message series over the last couple of weeks. Oh, but before that, did they make the announcement there's a membership class after the church service today, and you get sandwiches? Now, if you're already a member, don't come up there and eat the sandwiches up. You understand? I know, this is not Lunch with LifeSpring. That's coming up in a couple of weeks, okay? So this is for our people that are interested in membership, and you don't have to go to the membership class. You just hear what we're about and what we see, the vision of what God's doing for us here. But over the last couple of weeks, we've been working off of a message series that's based off of The Drought Has Ended. And we've been talking about a lot. In fact, how many of you got a bottle of water today? Everybody got a bottle of water? I want you to take that bottle. If you don't have one, I need to hold your bottle of waters up because they're looking for them on TV. They're looking for it. If you don't have one, I'm making sure because we're going to make sure. You got one, Linda? Looking back there, you got a bottle of water? All right, hold it. I'll take it. Pop off your top there. I want you to take you 2 good swallows. I want you to stay hydrated now. Mine's empty. Yours empty? Well, we'll see if we can get you another one. Somebody will throw you one back there. And if you don't have water, just raise your hand. They'll get you one. Jody's on it right now. Look at that. Now, if you drink more than that, you'll have to go to the restroom, so I don't want you to drink more than 2 right now, okay? Everybody be getting up in about 10 minutes and say, oh, and just start shaking, it's got to go. So, but we've been talking about a passage that Jesus had said in the Scriptures, and I know I'm going to throw my people off on my slides, but we're going to read this up. It's number 6. But we're going to read this, John 7, verse 37 and 38. I want you to stand up and read this aloud with me as we read this scripture right here. So it's John 7, 37 and 38. Okay? Let's see if he gets it. You got it? Probably not. It was my slide number 6. Okay, so we're waiting, and now that's it. There you go. All right, I want you to read this aloud with me. On the last and the greatest day of the festival, Jesus stood up and said in a loud voice, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." All right, I want you to turn to your neighbor, and I want you to let anyone who is come to me. Turn to him, tell him that. All right, now you can be seated. Now, I'm studying about this and about the thirst aspect and Jesus saying, anyone that's thirsty can come to me. That means anyone. I'm not sure what anyone is, but you can come to me, and he's got the answer for you. But as I studied and researched in the Bible to find other passages that were tied to Scripture, I came across this part that I have read many times before, but it just changed on how I was reading it and interpreting it. And it comes from a story that many of you may have heard this if you've ever been in many church settings before. So some of you may have heard this. And it's a passage of Scripture where Jesus was talking to a huge crowd. But I want to set this up by telling you this. He was talking to a huge crowd, but he was teaching his disciples. Now, you need to understand, huge crowd that can hear him, but he's teaching his disciples. That's the ones that he's doing the teaching to. Now, there's a difference in preaching, teaching. Now, how many of you can remember, some of you it won't be that stretch of imagination for you, but how many of you can remember when you were back in school? Show your hands. Okay? Yeah, y'all are like, yeah. See, some of us remember our teachers back in school, and they went up to a dry erase board, and they wrote up there, right? Then there's some of us, they had this little green or black chalkboard, and they wrote up there with chalk. You understand? I'm not saying it's on this side of the room and that side of the room. I'm looking for illustration here. I don't know what was before blackboards and chalkboards and and abacuses or I don't know what, but anyway, there was some that you go and you hit print and it makes a print of what you have. There's others of us that know there was this machine that had blue ink in it or something, and you just run it around what was that thing called? A mimeograph machine, and done that. There's watch YouTube videos for their classes. There are others that had this overhead projector that they stuck things up there and all. I don't remember what teaching was like when you were in school. But Jesus was teaching his disciples, which means in school when they teach you something, the professor, the teacher, the man or the woman that was up there would tell you some things, involve you in what they were doing. But there was a reason, because they wanted you to continue to do that all the way up to the test. You with me? Because the test would determine whether you understood what they were teaching, correct? So there's a test that we relate to, that we like, oh, we got to study for this, we got to practice. Now they had lab work that they did, right? They had other ways they did it. You had little group, what's some other group activities that you did? Sometimes you played with Play-Doh. You know, Henry, you look like you played Play-Doh a lot, though. I mean, did you play Play-Doh a lot? You eat the glue, didn't you? No, some of us, it was those glue. Y'all don't know what glue eaters are because y'all were on glue sticks. We aren't there yet. So anyway, my thing is, people teach in different ways. And they teach for the purpose of us understanding and learning and being able to apply it in some type of test or some type of situation. Now, after you're out of school and after you've passed the test, do you need to know that stuff anymore? You know, now some of it, adding and subtracting, could come in handy when you're going out to eat somewhere and you're trying to calculate your tip. Or you can just use the app and do your tip app so you don't have to think. You know, you might need to know how to spell once in a while in case Siri doesn't spell check properly, you know. But my point is, the teachers teach for us to learn, not just for the test, but for a life skill, to learn it for life. Jesus has a crowd that's come to him, but he's teaching his close disciples. Listen to what it says in verse 5 of Matthew. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and he sat down. That's how teachers do sometimes. They sit down and get down there with us. His disciples came to him and he began to teach. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they are comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger, for they will be filled. Blessed are the, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you, that when people insult you, people persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me, rejoice and be glad, because for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." So I want you to understand when he's teaching this, he breaks this up, or you can break this up into a couple segments. The first segments are the first four of the blessed are people. So there's these categories of people. The first four categories are, blessed are those who, summarizing, are lacking. They're lacking. Missing something. He says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Well, if you're poor in spirit, that means you're not. All right, what's the opposite of poor in spirit? Rich. So you're not rich. You're lacking spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Why do we mourn? Why does someone mourn? Tell me why you mourn. Loss of what? I lost a cat one time and I didn't mourn at all. I'm not a cat person. Now, if I lost my dog, that's a whole situation. because them are different. I don't know. I believe there's horns on some cats. And y'all just keep them in your house like they friendly and all. They ain't friendly. They trying to get you. We mourn stuff that we love or care for. We mourn something that means something to us. It could be a job, the mourn of the loss of a job, mourn of the loss of a time of life. We mourn something that matters to us when we lose it or it's taken from us. He said, blessed are those who hunger and thirst. Hunger is lack of food. Thirst is lack of liquid or water. And in both of those things, hunger and thirst for righteousness. So in this first part, there's 4 blessings to those who are lacking. And he says, because those of you who are lacking in spirit, or who are mourning, or who are the meek. Meek sometimes are considered, people walk all over them, right? Because they don't stand up for themselves. They just take it all. Or blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. He says all this because he said, for the poor in spirit, yours is the kingdom of heaven. For those who mourn, you will be comforted. For those who are meek, you will inherit the earth. All this is future tense. You're going through it now, but there's future. In the future, something's going to change. Blessed are those who are hungry and thirsty and for righteousness right now, for they will be filled. So what he's saying is, there's a group of people who are blessed because they don't have it. Because help's coming. Help's coming. And sometimes we don't think we're blessed until the help gets there. You understand what I'm saying? We think the only time that we're blessed, we feel like sometimes we're cursed by God if the blessing isn't happening. If we're in this difficult time or if we're struggling, we're lacking in things. Say we're mourning the loss of something, God must be not with me. But he's saying, you're blessed. Help's coming. So one category is those that are people who are lacking. Lacking is the first 4, and he says you're blessed. But the next 3, these are the people who have something and share it with others. He says, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I think about these things. Who's the merciful people in this world? It's people who have mercy and who give mercy. That's what makes you merciful. You can't be merciful if you keep it. You understand? If I have the ability to give mercy to you and I hold on to it, then I'm not merciful until I give it away. When I care about someone, when I think about someone, when I pray for someone, when I send somebody a note of encouragement, when somebody is lacking hope or needing hope, when someone is mourning, when somebody is struggling, when somebody is sick, and I have the ability to help with what I have and I help, then I'm providing mercy. The pure in heart. We're all trying to be pure in heart, but the real pure in heart are the ones who do it with no looking for anything to come back to them. I'm helping you because I care. Not because I'm going to get a reward for it. I stop on the side of the road and hand somebody some money because I care, not because I'm looking for a blessing from God or I'm looking for a gift from God. Move up the ladder. I don't care who's watching me do this. Pure in heart, just do it. It's the right thing to do, and they do the right thing. The other one, the peacemakers. That's those that jump in the middle of turmoil, of chaos, of arguments, of bickering and strife and struggle. And they get in the middle and they say, oh, let's just talk this thing out. Let's just settle down. You understand what I'm saying? They bring peace. Sometimes that's in a household. Sometimes that's in a marriage. Sometimes that's in our relationship with our family. Sometimes it's a relationship with our work. Sometimes it's a relationship in the world, in our school, wherever. It's just sometimes there's just stuff happening and we need peacemakers in those situations. But if somebody who has peace doesn't give peace, they're not a peacemaker. You tracking with me? So the first 4 are people who are struggling because they lack things. The next 3 are the people who have it and are willing to share it. And then in this passage that he's teaching, remember, he's not preaching. Now, to the crowd, it might sound like preaching, but to his disciples, he's teaching. Because there's a test coming. There's something that's going to come later on. You're going to need to have this information. You're going to need it not just to reproduce on the test to make an A, B, or C. You're going to need this to live life. And I would suggest to you, you're going to need this to be life in the world. So one category, 4 of them, are struggling because they lack. He says, you're blessed, help's on the way. The other 3 have something that they're willing to share with others, and they're blessed. Then he talks about that group that does that. He says, blessed, that group of people, there's 2 groups he describes. Blessed are the people, are those who had something, and they shared it, and they were treated badly for it. When you help, when you do something for Jesus' sake, people are going to hurl insults at you. People are going to persecute you. They're going to say stuff falsely and say all kinds of evil against you. When you try to do the right things and try to be the right person, they're going to check your ulterior motives. They're going to say, oh, you're just doing that for some other reason. You don't care about me. You don't even know me. They're going to say all kinds of falseness against you. It's all about you. You're just doing this so you look good to everybody else. It has nothing to do with the care of the needy or the people that are hurt or the people that are mourning or the people that are struggling. He said they're going to say all kinds of stuff, but you just listen to me. That stuff's not true. Or if it is true, you need to change. But he's saying when they persecute you for these reasons, when they do this, he says, great is your reward in heaven. I don't know if you catch that or not. That means your reward ain't going to be what you have on earth. Heaven ain't here. I'm just saying, it's somewhere. But this is earth. And earth is earth and heaven is heaven. You got me? And one day heaven is going to come to earth, but heaven has not come to earth except in the This is earth. And he said that your reward is going to be in heaven. So what he's saying is when you do the right things and when you help people and when you care for people and when you love them, when you send them a note when they're down and out. How many of you have notes? Anybody ever sent you a note before that you held on to? Anybody ever have one of those notes that you held on to? I got a whole folder of them. I got one on the... I'm looking at you right now. Lindsay put one, thinking about you today. Have a great day. You're awesome. That sucker's stuck on my bookshelf. Because you know what? I'll forget that I'm awesome sometimes, and I know that's hard to believe. But she reminds me I'm awesome. Because Satan tells me you ain't jack. He tells me you ain't nothing. You need to even get out of that pulpit. You don't even need to get up there and talk. Look at what's going on you. And then I look at that note, and it reminds me, see, some of you are note people. I got these things. I got a card from a grandson. Anybody kept a card from somebody? Do y'all give y'all parents cards before? How many of y'all give them cute cards? And the reason I shook my bottom, how many of you gave them the card that said, happy birthday, Papa or Grandpa, and give them a pair of dancing underwear that sing? I don't know how Hallmark does that, but I'm just telling you, I got a pair of dancing underwear that sing happy birthday to me, and it jiggles while it's shaking. I'm holding on to that because that comes from my grandchildren. I actually think one of my kids picked that out and thought that'd be cute and didn't think I'd ever use that again, but I used it in a sermon, I tell you what. We keep it because it brings us joy. It reminds us of things. See, there's people who don't have, and he says, you're blessed because help's coming. There's people who have, and they share, and they're blessed. And then there's people that's going to try to tear us down as we do it. And he says, quit worrying about them and quit looking for your reward on earth. Look for it in heaven. So he's talking about the church. He's talking to these disciples. These disciples who, knuckleheaded as they are going to be leading this church. It's going to be the church that you and I are following that are leading Christ. But that middle part, there's a middle section there where it says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. It says they hunger and thirst now because in the future their filling is coming. Now, when I take that and tie it back to that verse that you stood up and you read aloud with me on the last and the greatest day of the festival, Jesus stood up and he said in a loud voice, this is the same Jesus that taught this earlier, 2 years later is now saying this toward the end of his ministry. Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Blessed are those who are thirsty. Blessed are those who don't have because they're going to get it. It's coming. And he's saying, I'm here. And then he says, whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them, meaning to this group of people, those of you who believe in me. What you have, you can now share because it's rivers of living water coming out of you. So I began to wonder, can you create thirst? Or is thirst just something that you just naturally let happen? Then maybe you just let people go through all kinds of turmoil in their life, and then they'll finally thirst for righteousness. Or maybe they have it at one time, and then they hoard it up, and they don't want to give it away, and maybe they'll thirst for righteousness. See, the psalmist wrote one time, as the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, the living God. And listen to what it says. When can I go meet God? See, that to me tells me that thirsty people look for water. Amen. They look. And they want to know, when is it coming? When is it going to happen? When? They don't ask where. They don't ask how. This psalmist says, when you get thirsty, you ask, when is it coming? It's coming. The answer's coming. When am I going to not mourn anymore? It's coming. Comfort's coming. See, this guy named Rumi said this one time, not only the thirsty seek the water, but the water as well seeks the thirsty. See, thirsty people want water. They need something to quench that thirst. But water needs to have something that needs it. Jesus says, I will quench the thirst, but if you don't want me, I'm no good to you. You tracking with me? He's saying, come to me, thirsty people. I'm the drink you need. But if you don't come, I'm just desiring you as much as you're desiring to be quenched. Now, the interesting thing in this passage, you would think that Dorsey just stopped there, we good, let's go. For who are looking for something, longing for something, and they say they're blessed because it's coming and something's coming. And there's 3 groups of people that are blessed because they're the ones that's coming. They're the Calvary. They're coming to take what they have and give it. And even though they're persecuted, if you struggle doing this, it's all good because we're going to be blessed and receive our reward somewhere else. But listen to what the next thing Jesus teaches his disciples. Because it changes here. He says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the salt of the earth. Not of heaven. You're the salt of the earth. So what's the characteristics of salt? Somebody give me one. Shout out one characteristic of salt. What? Flavor. It takes something that is bland and can give it seasoning and spice, give it life. It changes something that seems like worthless, nothing, and gives it taste, and it makes it palatable. Where is the salt in the world with the world when they don't understand Jesus and we don't make it palatable to him? It does taste terrible. You give me all these things. Why don't we make it the salt and be the salt to season it where they can understand it? That's where we started seeing translations of the Bible come from King James to NIV to New American Standard. Different translations. It's the same thing. It's just giving you the taste so you can take and consume it, because once it's in you, it will change you and you will hunger no more. Add seasoning. What's another one? Preserves. How does it preserve? That's a good answer. You said, while I was talking over here, you was looking it up on Facebook. It does. Pinterest says it preserves. It preserves because how many ever heard of sugar cured ham or salt cured ham? Why do you put salt on the ham? It's a preservative. It packs it up. It protects it, so it preserves things. You are the salt of the earth. Who are you preserving, and what are you preserving? Are you preserving the truth of Christ? So, seasons, it preserves. Give me another one. Nutrients? Tell me about nutrients. It's sodium. It gives you sodium. It gives you some of the parts that you need. What'd you say? Oh, that's somebody from the north, because they don't know that down here in the south. You know they don't know that. You know, when you go up north, you understand what I'm saying. If you've been up north and they get ice on the road, what do they throw out on the road? Why? It melts something that is hard. Salt melts the hardest substance there is. There's nothing harder than ice, a block of ice. You blockheads, have you ever heard of that? You know, there's a block of ice. It'll melt it. And I don't understand how it does this. I really don't. There's things I don't understand. This is me. When I was little, we used to make ice cream, homemade ice cream. You ever made homemade ice cream and you had that little thing and you had to crank it and you put the ice, packed it in there around the milk and stuff, right? And what did you put on top of the ice? Salt. And why do you put salt on ice to melt the ice if the ice is what's going to make it colder?
But it does make it colder.
It makes it colder. There's something. We don't have to understand all that stuff to know what the results are. I'm not looking for a chemical explanation there, my professor back there, dude. It makes the ice melts faster, and the chemical reaction is a few degrees colder. That's what happens. But the point I'm making is, you are the salt of the earth. You can melt hearts. Those hearts and those people you say can't be penetrated. By gosh, if it wasn't for somebody else being salt of the earth, some of you wouldn't be in this room right now as hard-hearted as you was. But what's another thing it does? Cleans. What? Cleans what? Makes you thirsty. I think I'll take a drink of water on that one. Thirst. Salt will create thirst. Salt will create thirst. You are the salt of the earth. You are the ones that are to do the healing, the meeting the hard heads, the melting of the heart. You are that. You are the answer to these problems. You are what I'm looking for. You are the salt of the earth. And when are you going to start being salty? People should look at you and be thirsty for what you have and what you're living. Is that true in your life? When they look at you, do they get thirsty and want what you have? Do they want the relationship that you have with God by watching you and how you behave? That's because we don't live it anywhere but in this room. It's easy to be salt in the salt block. It's easy to be salt in the salt shaker. It's hard to be salt when you're shaking out on a piece of food. It's hard to be salt when you're shaking out on the road to melt it. It's hard to be salt when you're curing and healing something. Because you're separated from the whole, but you're not, you're salt. And Jesus is saying, that's who you are, guys. He's teaching his disciples, and the other people are overhearing it. And today, as I'm teaching you, some are being taught, and some are only hearing this as a preaching. And there's a difference. Salt. You are the solution to the problems. You are the ones that comfort those who mourn. You are the ones that stand in the gap and be the peacemaker. You are the ones to be there for the meek and not let them get run over. That's you. And so I could stop the sermon there. I could stop the teaching there. But Jesus didn't. He went a little bit further. But pause button. I just hit that pause. Remind me of that thought, Riley. Right there. Thought. Come back. All right, so how many of you ever got... when you're trying to create thirst, I get this feeling that people just don't know how to create thirst. So here's the thing. How many of you have ever, let me tell the part and I'm going to see if it's ever happened. Gone out to eat, you're out at the restaurant eating, and you and a friend go up and eat, and they say, I'm not hungry, I'm not ordering anything. Lori, I'm not hungry, I just ate before I came over here. And then you sit down there and you're eating, and you get your hamburger and your fries, and I know some of you got lettuce and all that good stuff, but some of us get hamburger and fries. Can I have a fry? And they take a fry. Now they just told you they weren't hungry. But they get your fry, get another fry, and before you know it, they done ordered their own fry. They go to the movies with you. I don't want any popcorn. And the next thing you feel is something over in your bucket getting your popcorn. And then you have some of your drink because you put so much butter on your popcorn, you got to have some drink. Or there's so much salt. Oh my gosh, people. See, all you got to do is be with people. If you live your life as an overflow of what God is doing in your life, they'll be with you and they'll take from your plate. And don't get upset with that. Don't pop that hand, Ricky. Let them take that French fry. Let them get that popcorn. That's hard for me. Offer them another one. Offer them another one. Because what happens is they want what you had. They didn't when they got there. They didn't know. They thought life was satisfying them, but they start smelling that aroma of them French fries. They start smelling that your pie pizza, and it's like, man, I got to have me one, and they're going to order them one. They watch you eat, and they watch you drink, and they watch you enjoy it, and they watch the life that happens around it, and they want. That's how you make the world thirsty, and that's how you're salt in the world. Play. But Jesus didn't stop there. Listen to what he says next. He says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. It ain't about you. It's about what God is doing through you so that he gets glory, not you. Doesn't that match up what your reward's coming on down the road in heaven? It's not going to happen on earth. We want him to start getting glory on earth as it is in heaven. And there's a prayer that Jesus taught later on. May your will be done on earth as it is in. And it's going to be done through the salt. Salt's going to have to be the example that it needs to be. But then the salt has to also be the light. Now, you know what that means? A light really works the best in dark. You light the path. It's not just enough to be the salt and create the thirst. Sometimes you're going to have to take your light and you're going to have to light up the path so they can get to the water. You are the light that lights the path so they can find their way through this darkness, through these struggles, through the difficulties of life, and can find their way back to Jesus, to the living water, to the well. And you know the way. Because you've been there and you've drank from it. And now you're a stream of living water. So you're supposed to be the salt and create the thirst. You and I are the answers to these problems going on in other people's lives. And we're going to be blessed by doing this. And then all we have to do is, and let me say this about a light. He talks about a light. No one lights a lamp. So I'm thinking about a lamp. You understand what I'm saying? And that's old-fashioned flashlight. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, or let me talk to another generation. That's the app on your phone that turns the light on. Nobody turns the app on for the flashlight and sits it here. You understand what I mean by that? You don't turn your flashlight on. You don't light the candle over here, and then you walk dark and you go try to help the world. You take it with you. So I am salt and I am light. And the crowd heard that. He was talking to his disciples. So they're learning this. You understand? They're being taught this. But there were some students in the hallway while they were getting taught, and they listened in on that. You know what I'm saying? They heard that good teaching going on, and 3 or 4 students are there. They're on the ground listening under the door. They're at the windows now hearing this, and they're the ones that are sitting there going, I'm the one that needs this. I can't wait till they come out of that classroom, because those people in that classroom are going to come and help me finally. Or do they? Or do they just walk out? Hold up your bottle of water. Take the lid off. And take another swallow. Or do they just drink their water and satisfy their needs and not think about the others? In just a few minutes, well, right now the band can come on up. I want the band to come on up, and they're going to prepare to sing our last song. And what's going to happen during this song is some volunteers who don't know who they are right now, but they're going to get up because they're volunteers and they just do that stuff. They're about to bring you a second bottle of water. This bottle of water is for you. That other bottle of water is for somebody in your life. Somebody that you've come across. Somebody in your world or your time that is needing salt and light in their life. Your assignment, your test is to go out after prayerfully considering who it is that God has put into your life. It may be a stranger, it may be somebody you know, but your assignment is to give that bottle of water to someone else who's not in this room right now and not in our Kids Spring area. And let me go to the lawyers in here who is not associated with this whole sermon right now, and to take that bottle of water and give it to somebody. And you decide what you want to say when you give it to them. You decide if you want to tell them, as the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants for you. You decide if you want to put a scripture on. You can decorate it. I know some of you are creative. You can bejewel this thing if you want to. And some of you don't know what that is, so that just said my age right there. You can put rhinestones on there. That goes back even further. You can put the hanging down tassel leather things that some of the cowboys used. I don't care. You can put feathers on it. I don't care. You give it away. And practice being salt and creating that thirst. And then the other challenge is make sure you take your light with you, because they may want to follow you back to where you got that water from. And make sure you light them back to Jesus and show them the path back to Jesus. And that could be through here in your small groups. That could be here in a worship. That could be anywhere, anyhow. You will know how to do this. So make sure you get 2 bottles of water before you go. And during this last song, I'm telling you, this is how God works. I'm telling you. All you have to do is pray, God, reveal to me who you want me to give this water to. That's it. So be the salt and be the light. This day.